Good morning and welcome to the Wade and Carter program. I'm your host today, Brent Carter. Ash is out of town on business. I'm seeing on the front end, the first one in is Rena Shear, and nobody else is in yet, which is interesting. I know it's cold, but it's interesting that nobody's in. We will see what happens. You have us? Are we good? I think as far as I can tell, we're good. The Wade and Carter weather is brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. It's 33 degrees in Victoria, heading for a high today of only 55. Should be, it appears, sunny most of the day. Commander, I'm curious where everybody is. And I don't know if it's something I've done. Rena, you're in. Commander, there's nobody here, which is very odd. If you're here, I don't think we. Okay, I don't know if we've done anything, or it could just be me. Could just be my insecurity. Ash is out of town on business. I get all insecure, maybe like nobody's coming to see me because Ash isn't here. But that no, there's folks there. Okay, as long as you're there, I don't have to see your names to know you're there. There you go. We already have 27 comments. I just didn't see. They're not showing up on here, and I don't know how to refresh that. But I don't need to. So, Commander, you're the guy that can watch. And when we have our guest in a moment, which I want to give her all the time we can today, and my thought is you can either text me or you come up here and show me questions, whatever. We want to make sure that the doctor gets, not the doctor, that's one of my bonuses. It's not the doctor, and that is a bonus for me, that the chief educator, if you will, of our district gets all the time that she wants. So I tell you what I'm going to do, just in the sake of time, I'm going to take a quick break so we have an uninterrupted stream of time with, and I'm going to say this right, Miss SHEILA COLLAZO. Yeah, baby. It's not easy, but the best things aren't, right? Went Services, folks, for all your generator needs. This time of year, it helps to have a backup generator. I highly recommend that you reach out to Went for all your generator needs and let them. What do you think if I do that? Will it refresh that? I wouldn't do it either. Okay, we won't do it.
I'll give you feed.
I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't be prudent. Remember George H.W. Bush? Wind services for your generator needs. RK Development Group, Daniel Rollins and his team can show you what 35 years of construction experience looks like as they come out and help you build a barn dominium, a bricks and sticks home, concrete, heavy concrete work. You need work done for an industrial site. They can do that for you. The VCS companies for all your communication needs. They just basically have been a foundation of the program forever. Brand us, that's Cody. Cody's going to stand here beside me and help run the program. Cody is the guy. Whether you need a website built, Facebook presence, learn how to monetize sites you already have, Cody can help you. Atzenhofer and the Atzenhofer dealerships. Since 1926, Atzenhofer's been Victoria's dealership. Get in today and ask to visit with Tommy Taylor. Ask him for a tour. Let him show you where your vehicle will be maintained, where it can be painted if it needs to be. Let Tommy and his team help you. White trash services. Let's focus on white trash site services. You need to get rid of an unsightly old structure on your property so that RK Development can build a barn. There you have it. Reach out to 550-1826 and let them help you.
So is AJ coming to us from Austin or the Victoria office today?
He you know what? AJ is so mobile right now. He doesn't have a physical office in Victoria. I know he's going to have an office in other counties in the district, which makes sense. He's going to have an office where he can find folks in, like, say, Matagorda County, who, by the way, I just don't think have been serviced well. You know, as a collective, yes, but as far as having a voice, somebody there often, I think you're going to see a new era in representation in our district. Good morning, Mother. I hope you're doing. My mom will be proud that I'm visiting with an educator today. Of course, my mom was a lifelong educator, taught kindergarten at Northside Baptist Church, went back to school when I got in school.
Wow.
UHV, was a teacher at Industrial, was a principal at Industrial, worked in the superintendent's office at Industrial, and then, of course, worked at the region for a long time. So many friends. When we drug Mom out to Moonshine, of all places, to see Scott Taylor.
Sure, she loved that.
She did, but there was, Ash made the comment, basically there was a receiving line for your mother. People kept coming up to Mom and telling her how, she had influenced their lives. It was really,
Did
really
you go
nice.
to the superintendent's office when you were a kid?
I've never been to the, yes, I have been to her office. Back
No. In discipline.
No, because
Okay.
the superintendent was always away. They had a castle,
Gotcha.
and the superintendent was always in a castle. So we didn't, yeah. And I was trying to think, and I'm going to ask, we're just going to have to call her Sheila.
I like it.
COLLAZO. I'm going to get it. I want to get it right because I knew the L was going to make a Y sound, like caballero, but I couldn't get, and I know that the vowels are flat is what I call them. So it's probably koi, aza.
Maybe we just ask her if we could call her Miss
Yeah,
Sheila.
we're going to get her in here in
I
just
like
a minute.
that.
I like
that
it.
better.
Yeah, we could ask her, wouldn't that be great? Can we call you Sheila? No.
Right. It'd be perfect.
No, I'm above a principal,
That's
and I'm
right.
going to just,
That's right.
it's a family show. She probably won't
We had a
pass us.
Dr. Sheila from Lisa Poole, however.
No, she's not Dr. Sheila. And by the way, that's refreshing. This is a boots on the ground educator,
That's
not
right.
not some Pollyannic ivory tower person.
That's right.
That's the way I'm spinning it.
Can
Chesapeake
you give out
Furniture,
an honorary doctorate? Like, do you have that
I
ability?
could give her the Wade and Carter honorary
See,
doctorate,
I'm wondering. We haven't done that before.
which of course would be something that no one would brag about.
That's right.
Absolutely. It's like having the reprobates say, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're the best guard ever here at the prison.
That's right.
Absolutely. Chestic Furniture. Chestic and Love make your house a home. You just always do better at Chestic. Actually, us talking about our sponsors could help
Ooh,
Miss COLLAZO because she's new to town.
absolutely.
So,
She
what?
needs a generator. We know who to send her to.
I just want to get her on in here.
That's right.
If
Let's
she
get her
has
in.
time, let's just get her in here, get her comfortable. And Ashley, if you want to come, Ashley, too, please feel welcome. I'm gonna, and with no fanfare, we're just gonna, you're fine. You just walk right over here. We have a camera right there. And I've been chastised. If you want it, would you like a bench? I've been chastised in the past about you guys have got to do a better job of getting my best side on. So, we are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are. And yes, you get yourself comfortable. Commander will fix the camera wherever
Yes,
you
ma'am.
need it. And so we call him Commander. He's Commander Cody. And hang on, let me get you squared up. Oh, you look great there. Okay, so I'm gonna, without any further ado, and with requisite that's laughter. At any rate, we do have applause. But there you are. You're there. And I've never met you in person. We have spoke on the phone.
We have.
But you are Sheila COLLAZO.
COLLAZO. There you
Okay, got it. But it is a Z, right?
That's correct.
Okay. When I first read it, I wanted to call it COLLAZO. But no, COLLAZO. I think I was trying to make it Italian.
Yes.
And I was, wrong.
Not the first time.
And do get close, get a little bit closer to that microphone.
Different people pronounce it different ways. For me, it's COLLAZO.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And so, first of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're very, very flattered to have you here. I mean that. And I want to tell you that through the years, and now it's been over 8 years, we've been blessed to have a very open line of communication, not only with VISD, but with Michael Cloud, our congressman, with Sheriff Louderback, our state rep, with Ben Zeller, our county judge, Sheriff Marr, the Victoria Police Department. So you are on a list of highly respected folks
Absolutely.
that take the time to come and spend time with the community. And it means the world to me because I have no content for today but you.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
I'm proud to give you the whole hour.
Thank you.
I want to encourage you to use our platform to let
Victoria,
what we've been
and the
told
area.
is over 10,000 people a morning. Just let them get to know you and your philosophy and your goals and dreams. And I want to compliment you on there's a YouTube video out there. Did you do it? The YouTube video
which
of her
one?
going, that's a great question. That's good stuff.
love
But
it.
it's you walking the halls of the administrative building. It's a very informative video. It gives a lot of insights into you. And if you'd like, just kind of let's recreate that. Where are you from? Tell us about you.
So I'm coming from San Antonio, Texas, originally born and raised in Benavides, Texas. I grew up on a ranch between Benavides and Freer, went to college at Texas A&M Kingsville, Texas A&I, as I knew it.
Ooh.
Yes,
And-
ma'am.
Yes. And so graduated from there, moved to San Antonio, and spent my entire career there in multiple, well, teaching initially, and then multiple leadership positions. And so as this position came open here in Victoria, I wasn't looking. I researched it and thought this is a great opportunity for me to bring hopefully my strengths and make a difference just as I have in the other communities that I've served. So the experience so far, I'm 5-6 weeks into it, has been amazing. Everyone has been warm, welcoming, and we're moving the work exponentially right now.
Awesome. You know, I reached out yesterday when I talk about her being accessible, Cody. I reached out to knowing now, and I've known Ashley for years. I should have called you, and I kind of want to apologize for that. But I have such an open line with Randy Meyer. Don't lose that guy. I reached out to Randy and I just said, "Can you help us?" And he goes, "Oh, absolutely. Let me make a phone call." So he called Ashley because he knew who to call, and honestly, within a half hour, she had called me back and said that you would be willing to come on the program. It means a lot. It says a lot. There's a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I just got here. Let me unpack my pencils."
Yeah.
Right.
I'm proud of you, and I mean that. I mentioned that I'm the child of an educator. I grew up in a very loving home. I want to give you a scenario because we have a catchphrase here for education. And ours has been sit down, shut up, and learn something. And I've just learned through communicating that it really just isn't that simple anymore.
No.
Tell us how you've seen education change just since you've been a pro at it. How have you seen the needs and the mental health side of our schools change?
You know, I really believe that social media has had a big impact on students. And while it's the platform we use like this to communicate, it also has had its detriments with students. And so when students come from very healthy home environments where parents have control over social media and they're helping navigate that, we don't see the issues as much as we do with a population of students that have lesser control and less oversight with social media. So, you know, kids are kids, and kids are going to conform to whatever the expectations are in school. And so for me, and I know that discipline has come up in some ways here in this community, and it's a big topic everywhere, but and we'll get into that just a little bit later, I'm assuming. But kids are going to live up to whatever expectations we hold, and we have to establish those expectations, build strong relationships with students, and kids will rise up to that.
You know, we've said here for a long time that the real problem is not the kids. Now, to clarify, I've decided that once a kid, say a sophomore in high school, once they get to that second year, if they're not acting right, learning, if they're a detriment to the classroom, I would have no problem with VISD. I know it would take some legislative help, But I have no problem with VISD taking a private school position and saying, hey, guess what? Maybe school right now is not for you. So you go on home for a couple of years. We'll help you get your GED later, but you're not going to disrupt the other 25 kids in this class every day. And I know that I can see you smile that there's times that you've known that kid. I'd love to send that kid home.
Those are the kinds of kids that I love working with, Brent. And I'm going to tell you that I'm a few weeks into the position here. Where I came from, we're going to have our repeat offenders, and the data looks no different here in Victoria. We have, of the 13,000 students that we probably have about 300 students that have multiple discipline infractions. And for me, it's, yes, we're going to work with the students individually, but it's bigger than that. I brought those students into my office with parents, and we had some real crucial conversations about the why. Why are you acting this way? What are your choices? What kinds of decisions are you making? What's the impact for you long-term should you continue with this trajectory? And in almost every single instance, students changed, and it was because someone cared. Someone took the time to do that. And so I wonder, and I want to have a lot of wonderings right now because I'm just coming in. I'm wondering what our platform has been about holding students and parents responsible in different ways.
I love it. We've had conversations here that the real problem in our district is lack of parental commitment. And it's difficult. There's a number of reasons. You know, life is different. When I was a youngster, and I know that there were always problems, and there were things that, you know, you didn't know the guy down the street who drank too much. You didn't know the lady down the street that abused her kid. And no offense to the ladies, we could vice versa that. I get you know, they'll yell at me. Why has it got to be the woman?
You probably deserve it.
Probably. But it seems like now, you know, I come at it from my white bread, two-parent family where I was loved every night, kissed by both parents. Good night, buddy. And, you know, I've made the comment about an elementary kid that's a runner. He just decides he's not going to do it, puts on his backpack, runs out the door, goes down the street. The SRO has to come over. You know, the principal's like, I'm not spanking that kid. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself out there and get fired over getting sued. Yeah. And you find yourself going, you know, I told Randy Meyer just yesterday, I said, you know, I would have no problem. I'll go up there and beat that kid for you. And after a couple of days, he's going to sit in his seat. And Randy just very thoughtfully said, because that's the world you came from. Right. He said, you have to be aware that that kid may be getting beat at home, burned with cigarettes, sexually abused. He may be crying out for help.
That's right.
And I vacillate as an educator at your level. I know you want to probably be all things for all kids. At some point, you got to say, I'm not here to be your shrink. I'm here to teach you to read and write and do math. How do you balance that?
Well, I mean, it's also, as you say, about thinking about the implications for other students who sit in those classrooms who are being distracted by those behaviors. So we have to do something. That's clear.
Amen.
What we do should be on a case-by-case management basis. And that's what I'm looking for. When we look at these 300 students, how are we case managing them? What does that look and sound like from an administrative perspective, from a social emotional perspective? You know, what are our tiered interventions? Generally speaking, you would see the tier 1 support coming from a counselor, like that counseling first. We have social emotional behavioral specialists also who provide some level of support here. Those are the things that I want to know. Who's doing what so that we can figure out from a systems perspective, what is our approach and what do we need to be doing different?
Absolutely. We have a bunch of listeners, but one of the questions, hey, Captain David, there's David Adrian's with the Matagorda Bay Pilots. He takes big ships out into the Gulf. Says here, has Victoria ISD done away with corporal punishment, or can parents still sign and have it done?
So multiple school districts still have corporal punishment in their local policies. And so I'd have to go back and look to see whether Victoria does.
I think they do. I think it still exists. Again, I can't imagine.
Right.
You know, nowadays it's just such a legal wrangling, which again I think goes back to the commitment of the parents, right? When you were a little girl,
you got
your
it
parents
twice as smart as home.
Amen. And that was I believe in deterrence. I mean, my dad said, you get busted at school, I'm going to bust you when you get home. I didn't want to get busted at home. I wanted the leftover mashed potatoes. You know, I didn't want to get busted.
Yeah.
So absolutely. How do you, what have you seen successfully implemented regarding school safety?
So we have multiple mandates, as we know, with school safety. Unfunded mandates, I'll say.
Amen.
And
We're going to
so-
get to that in a minute.
Yeah. And so what we know were the basic things that we all have to have in place are emergency operations plans, our drills, those kinds of things that happen. So that's more compliance. Randy and I have been talking about safety and looking at budgets, et cetera, to figure out, so what have we done? Victoria ISD has spent about $3.4 million, and I'm talking about between last year and this year, on safety in schools. We added vestibules. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, that is that guarded entry at the entrance of every school. SROs are now required, so every school district's required to have an armed officer at every campus. We spend about $850,000 on with the contract with the sheriff's department, plus an additional contract with Zapata for some other schools. We also had to install wraps on all the windows so that those windows became shatterproof. And so there are a lot of mandates that have come about since the Uvalde incident. And so those are the, I guess, the more compliance physical changes that we've made. Nothing is going to compare to training kids on the say something process. What do I mean by that? If you hear something, if you know something, if you see something, say something. Because we know that in every single instance almost across the nation, it has been an internal perpetrator who has been involved with school shootings. So how do we take care of that internally as well?
You know, one of my thoughts, and by the way, a great resource for you, if you haven't met AJ Louderback yet, who's our state rep, highly recommend, because he's not only, he's the go-to for so many people on these types of things.
We've had a quick touch point, but definitely
you will
need to
enjoy
sit.
visiting with him, because he'll, I was going to say he will dumb it down. That's not what I meant at all. He will make it so fundamentally basic. First we do this, then we do that, and then we, and
Can you run those thoughts by me first? And
yeah,
I'll
before
tell
I
you not to say those.
Like, yeah, God, you're kind of like Dawn, just not as cute.
Right.
What
Thank
I'm
goodness.
thinking is, we've said this here too, is you need a drill. Now, I was not even I am not old enough to remember getting under the desk. You know, for
Really?
the
I did that.
nuclear practice. Well, you were in that special class, but I want to train elementary school kids that in the event that something happens, if you hear the door breached, hit the floor.
Yep.
Because then only the bad guy's going to be standing up. I've always thought, gee, that makes sense. Get down. And he's standing there going, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Because right now you worry about hostage situations and, you know, is it okay to discharge a firearm? What if there's a kid in the way? I mean, I was always that tall. Now, they had a hard time hitting me. I was built like a thermometer at the time. But if you just get on the ground, only the bad guy's standing there.
And we do have a lot of those drills that we practice with students.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and we basically work off of the guidance from the School Safety Center in San Marcos. And those drills are practiced, they're documented. We do those kinds of things. And so definitely part of our protocol.
Fantastic. What, pick a subject. What else? What is your, you've only been here, and I did make the comment, I'm going to wait, let her unpack her desk and all that. And like I said, I really appreciate you being so accessible. What are you focusing on right now?
Academics is our sole reason for existence, right? We're here to educate students. What I'm seeing in Victoria is a need to do some shifts. We're going to pivot, and we've started that pivoting already. I was on a different show recently and talked about a very strong start and a strong finish. I'm working right now on building a very cohesive, aligned pre-K through 12 literacy program. It's readers to leaders, and we're working on developing that right now. And then numeracy, working on the same thing, pre-K-12 aligned numeracy program, not program, but framework that really helps develop every single student and works towards mastery from one grade level to the next with both reading and mathematics. We know that every single student needs to be literate, and the absence of that is we do not want illiterate students in Victoria
Right.
ISD. And so that's a priority.
What is your take on, the big buzz right now? What do you got, baby?
I was just going to say, let's talk about cell phones too. That seems to be a pretty big thing right now.
Yeah, I've always thought there ought to just be like a little bracket. You just walk in, put it in your little cubby there on the
Ideally.
wall, right?
Ideally.
My understanding is they can't take up the phones. Not that the kid couldn't put the phone there, but
I've seen videos
I
of
don't
kids
know.
demanding their phone, and one guy even punched a high school teacher because he wouldn't give him his phone back. I don't know, but if we're going to have a zero tolerance, we might as well have a zero tolerance. Are you going to have to address all those policies also?
So zero tolerance is zero tolerance. And some of the feedback that I receive from the community is about inconsistencies with implementation and expectations.
Okay.
So it's something that we're talking about administratively with principals to ensure that if we have a policy in place, a regulation, whichever one it is, that we hold students accountable for those decisions that have already been made. As students move from one campus to another, or transition from one campus to another, that they need to know that the expectation is the expectation.
So it should be
So
uniform
your
throughout the
question-
district.
Absolutely. And your question was, what are my beliefs around cell phones? Cell phones are a distraction in many cases. There is a place for cell phones sometimes in a classroom. It should be teacher managed and teacher led. Cell phones are a great resource to use for taking polls, for doing all kinds of things where we display information and do those kinds of instructional activities using cell phones. To have a cell phone and simply texting and listening to music as we know it just isn't the best place in schools.
It is funny because it wasn't even an issue, when we were kids. And I look around and you've got, you have people, by the way, I think you have a very, very capable, caring, and committed school board.
one of
Obviously
them even said she looked really nice today.
There you go.
BJ Nelson.
So you've met them all. You spent time with all of them, I know, and they're all good people and they all have good intentions. But, and I don't know where I fall on the spectrum with some of them, but you've got folks on your school board who think everything ought to be done with pencil and paper on a desk. It ought to be able to be measured and kept and stored, and it's almost, I go back, it's almost like teaching a high school kid when I was in school to use a slide rule. Fine, you may need them to learn how to use a slide rule, but they're never going to use one.
Time ago.
That's right.
And I start wondering how the meeting kids where they live on social media, they live on games, and to be able to communicate with them through a Chromebook, if you will, I think is brilliance. It's obviously a huge expense that the district has adopted, but to be able to educate children through interactive things on a computer is not even the future. It's like 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
So it's like you have to do it. How do you deal with the folks? And we have a lot of them in our, we have preppers in our community. We have, conspiracy buffs in our community. Well, they're just gathering info about my kid on that computer. And how do you put those folks at ease that, hey, look, we're going to test them the way we teach them, and this is how we teach them, and you've got to be able to do it,
Yeah.
for the future.
Well, I'm standing right here looking at the sophisticated operation that you have right
Right.
in front of you. You have your dashboard, your computer, your cell phone. You
She's
have
talking about
information
me,
coming
by the
in.
way.
She is talking totally about you.
That is it. And so this is the day and age that we live. When students transition into the workforce, there will be technology that they're
Absolutely.
expected to use. Now, I will say that COVID sort of changed our landscape a little bit because we went one-to-one and students were tethered to computers.
Sure.
And so we lost the human element in some ways during those years. Nothing is going to replace the quality of the quality of a effective teacher in front of those students. And that has to be our norm. Is there a place for technology? Absolutely. Do we have systems and processes in place at the district level to ensure that students aren't being Googling, et cetera, things that they're not supposed to? We get notifications immediately that tell us when a student is doing something inappropriate on a computer. Now, just in terms of what you said with monitoring students and someone watching out for students, those mechanisms are in place to safeguard that.
Well, being a parent, Cody, I'm a great liar. Like, I'll just straight up lie to my kids if I think it's in their best interest. And I have told both my boys, I've got a junior at West and a 7th grader at Cade, and I've told them both, hey, little eyes, be careful where you look. I said, especially on that Chromebook, because I promise you that your Google trail is accessible to the district, and you don't want to get called in and have somebody ask you why you were going to this site on a computer you don't own.
That's right.
Well, there's
Now-
2 layers. One is it blocks a lot of sites automatically. The second layer is, should it not be blocked, we get a notification that tells us this computer accessed this site and we can deal with it.
Good for you. Very well done. You know, through the years, have you had the occasion to spend any time with our friend Bob Jacklich?
I have.
You know, Dr.
Yes.
You remember Bob? Did you know Bob?
I don't know, Bob.
I really enjoyed Bob. Hello, Brett. Bob Jacklich, 640 miles of excellence. Oh, this is Dr. J. I love the guy. I talk to him often.
So I knew Dr. J very well when he was in Harlandale. I was at the service center at the time and did a lot of side-by-side work with him. Excellent man.
Great guy, super guy, and was brought here predominantly because, and he and I have talked about it extensively. Like when he went back to San Antonio as interim,
Yeah.
he said, you know, we float a bond every year. It doesn't have to be very big, but we want people in the habit of voting for their school district. And he said, in 1 year, he goes, a city the size of San Antonio, we might have a $500,000 bond for something. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. Bob was brought here to pass a bond. That's was his strength, was communicating with the community, and it didn't work. And I counseled's not the right word, but he and I chatted when he was considering retiring. And I told him, I said, Doc, we'll get it passed next time. Stay. You know, you're a great guy. Everybody loves you. Just stay. And he said, no. He said, it's a young man's game. And he goes, let's say I stay and we get it passed. He goes, then it's 5 more years down the road before everything's done. And he goes, I won't be here to see it through. And if I'm not going to be here to see it through, I don't want to start it. And I couldn't do anything but just respect that.
Sure.
Dr. Shepard came in, and Q, with no fault of his own, and I don't think it was a detriment, was an outsider. Where did he come from? Iowa? Idaho?
I think so. One of those.
One of the I states. There are so many. He came in and liked him. And in fact, there were often times we referred to him as the smartest guy in the room, but he couldn't always get out of his own way. Could not pass a bond. At the end of the day, you've inherited, if not a financial mess, a financial challenge that is not in any way of your doing, and it's also not the result of this current school board.
Correct.
How are we going to help you get the, I believe, necessary new funding that you do need? How are we going to pass a bond in Victoria ISD?
So I want to say one thing first. Excuse me. We just had our financial audit, just presented that to the board, and we have an A rating again. And so the district is in a good financial status. Is the district in a position to complete all the necessary requirements for facilities? Absolutely not. The only way that is going to happen is with a bond. Now, Randy and I, again, have been sitting and looking at, there are 8 notebooks that represent all the changes that are required with facilities across the district. And what we're doing is condensing that information to create a very clear and cohesive plan that shows the cycle of replacement. In other words, when a campus, let's take East and West, those campuses I think were built in 2011, if I'm
Yes,
correct.
ma'am, you are.
Yes, and so taking East and West and identifying over the scope of time, 75 years is what we're looking at. None of us will be here, but we start planning that way.
Yes, ma'am.
When will HVAC systems need to be replaced? When will roofs need to be replaced? When will flooring need to be replaced? Everything needs to be on a master plan and a replacement cycle schedule. What I can't change is what did or did not happen before me. Those were not my decisions. What I can do is outline for the community the impact that it's going to take, the fiscal impact that it's going to have in order to make the kinds of improvements that we need to make with all facilities.
That's
And
awesome.
so we
You happy
should
with that
have
answer?
that ready.
I love that answer. I was listening to whatever's happening outside as well. It sounds like there's one of those bits of the dentist use on your teeth. Like,
Are they drilling out there?
They're doing something. I was like, what's happening in our studio?
Well, what I can appreciate is, like I said, we never met face to face. You're in here dead cold, no pun intended, and we're just spitballing things at you, and you're prepared. I don't feel like she's spinning anything.
Oh,
to us.
no, not at
I feel
all.
like I'm just getting honest answers.
You're
So-
always going to get an honest
Amen.
answer from me. That's what this is about. It's, I talked to principals recently and I said, this is about confronting the brutal facts. What are our brutal facts? Because we can't change what we don't know. And so if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And my plan is to have a plan.
That's awesome.
Amen. That's awesome. Tell me, I find what's interesting to me. So I was at the old Victoria High. I'm a product of VISD.
That's a long time
Still
ago.
got into UT. It's amazing. They act like, oh, everybody comes out of VISD.
I saw your Longhorn out there in your
There you
vehicle.
go. Yes, ma'am. I find it interesting that when stuff was built back then, I got out of high school in 81. I was part of our
I
classes,
wasn't even alive yet.
right? Were in the new building. The new building was built in 1960,
Wow.
but it had terrazzo floors and it was built out of brick and it had chillers. And what's interesting is the cycle. People don't realize that they still think of East and West as being new schools. And while they're only 14 years old, most of the HVAC has been replaced at least once. The cycle of, think about things at your home,
Sure.
your roof, your doorknobs, and now multiply that times 13,000 kids touching it.
That's right.
And the next thing you know, things wear out quicker.
That's right.
It seems like the durability of the equipment in the low bidder world that we operate in is less and less and less. I don't know. I don't understand enough, so I'm certainly not going to put you on the spot. But I know you've got M&O, and I know we can only use this money for teachers. We can only
correct.
use this money for maintenance. I don't know how you manage that. I joked earlier about don't lose Randy. I think Randy brings instant credibility because he's as transparent as you have shown yourself to be. And I just, if he tells me we need to do this, I'm inclined to just believe him. And I know that we've got some financial issues to overcome. So I applaud you for taking that on. No doubt you did some research before you got
I
here.
sure did.
And I did a little bit. So I know you were a dancer, and I know that, and so can we get, or how do you feel? Where does PE fit into our kids' programs these days?
I thought you were going to ask her to dance. And I was
I
like,
know.
No, I
I need
would
a
never
song.
do that. I would never do that.
So PE,
Physical education.
so we have statutory requirements that tell us how many minutes of PE a student is supposed to receive. PE is defined broadly, meaning I can get those exercise minutes through dance, through marching, through a number of different ways. And so the curriculum is defined for us. How we implement that is local decision based on what works for us.
Our kids were always athletes, and so it always amazed me when I would go to the high school, and you would just see there was a PE class, and half the kids were sitting on the bleachers, and the other half were walking laps around the gym. Nothing engaging, nothing fun. I think certainly at the younger level. You get them there early, you feed them. Sometime around noon, you're going to feed them again. sometime that afternoon, run them a little bit. You know, I used to come home from school worn out, which, of course, when we were
Was
playing
that running or
sports-
paddling?
well, running from the teacher. Running from the teacher was a good thing. You have a great teacher corps. I can tell you that. I know
Amazing teachers.
many of your administrative level on campus folks, and I know a number of teachers, and I've never met the stereotypical teacher. Oh man, I just got into it because I got a summer off, and I don't make
not at
great
all.
money, but everybody I know is bought in, and they really care about the kids. And I will give credit to Dr. Jacklich and Dr. Shepard for dragging that along. We have weeded and done things. I would like to see us deal with what people say, Brent, it's a statewide problem. I would like for us to retain our best and brightest. I think one thing you've got to do is stop those pesky people over at Region 3 from pirating all your best principals. Somebody, you have a successful principal, they pirate them, they buy them. How can we as a community find a way to pay our teachers more and
Keep them here longer.
keep them here longer? I don't need to be part of the criteria. There's nothing wrong with me, Ashley. If I walk into a room and this chemistry teacher is doing better than anybody else, man, give that guy a bonus. Yeah. Everybody wants to be appreciated at work. How do we do that? Or can we do that
Part
as a
of what
community?
you talked about was incentivizing. That's the monetary incentives. And we had the VATRE. That didn't pass. We need to look at other options to figure out how we incentivize monetarily. The other thing is just validating and supporting teachers. I mean, this job is a hard job. And sometimes those small validations go a long way, and we need to figure out how to ensure that our teachers feel supported, validated, and that we're here to back them up and remove any barrier that exists.
That's awesome. Cody, your wife's an educator. I mean,
She is.
What like concerns do you hear around the kitchen table?
Well, I know one of the things that we talk about a lot is how to effectively deal with phones. That was why I asked that question, because, she can tell them, hey, put your phones up, put your phones up, put your phones up. But my understanding, at least, and I might be wrong, is that she can't actually take them up. And so one of the struggles she has is, I want to effectively reach these kids. I want to work, and do my job as an educator. How do I take care of that? One of the other challenges I've seen, especially with the younger teachers, is you get there and it's like, well, I need all this stuff. I need all these things. I remember as a kid, we would have a list and it was like, okay, you got to bring 2 boxes of Kleenex and you got to bring crayons and all this stuff.
Oh man, I take a wheelbarrow full of stuff up there every year.
Supplies.
Yeah. Oh, I need you to bring 10 boxes of Kleenex, and 400 Sharpies.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, what are these kids signing autographs? I mean, it's like unbelievable.
I wonder if we as a community can support our teachers that way. Teachers spend a lot of money out of their pockets to make their classrooms nice, to make sure they have what they think they need, whether that's a funded thing or not. And I just, where do you get in? Does that trickle make a difference? Does that support a teacher? And it's hard.
The word community has come up several times, and that is a big focus for me, is how do we bring people together? I've had so many meetings over the last few weeks with different partners, the sheriff, City of Victoria, just Victoria College, UHV, everyone. And I'm continuing to do that. And we need to be working together. This work can't happen alone. I've said it before. It's not my work. It's our work. These are going to be the leaders in Victoria, and we need to do whatever it takes collectively to change that.
I think you're going to be looking at, at your level, you'll be disappointed at times when you attend a school board meeting and you find out that you've got 13,000 kids in your schools and there's 8 parents at the school board meeting. Yet everybody has an opinion. It's kind of that old deal of everybody wants to complain, but nobody wants to vote, and nobody's going to go campaign. So
involvement looks different, though. So why do I say that? I was a very involved parent. I was a working parent and very focused on my career as well. But I took care of what I needed to take care of with my kids. And so I think we need to look at the broad scope of involvement and what that looks like on that continuum, because you're going to have people that are going to be directly involved, meaning volunteering, and you're going to have people that are doing the back end work like I did to support my kids all the time. Parents need to understand that whole continuum so that they figure out where they fit in that.
And maybe
schema.
that's something you could come back and talk about
Sure.
is
How that's developing.
yeah, because I think that looks a lot different than it did even when I was a kid 30 years ago.
You know, when I look at where we go, and it's not true. You'll find that Wade and Carter is a very pro public school, pro VISD
Absolutely.
We
program.
appreciate that.
And I think that just peeling back a couple of layers of the onion will show that you merit that. It's like we're objective. I think that the stereotype that is incorrect, as they often are, is that, oh, well, the district's top heavy. There's too many administrators over there. If we could clean out that building, we could use that money, which, you know, we all know is a drop in the actual financial bucket. My encouragement to you would be tell the story. And in my mind, that is going to be have the right people underneath you, empower them, hold them accountable, and you be the CEO that is at the Lions Club, that's at the Rotary, that's at the fundraisers, that's at, keep your receipts, that's at all of these things, because people will interact with you as the face of VISD. Now, that is something that I went the last, honest to goodness, I served on a committee or a group deal that Q did when he came in, and enjoyed it, benefited from it. I realized later that I was guided by a very intelligent man to basically rubber stamp what he'd already decided he wanted to do. He asked your opinion and then would say things like, well, if you had to close 3 schools, which 3 would it be? As he pointed at the 3 that he had already predetermined he was going to close. And those of us that saw through it weren't invited back. But folks want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. And I just want to give you that encouragement when you're tired, when you're stressed, and there's, I don't really want to go to Rotary today, go anyway.
Yeah.
Because those are the folks that will have your back.
Always.
And, you know, you're small town lady, you know, and I applaud
With
you.
a big heart.
Amen.
That's right.
Biggest Texas.
That's it.
You know what's coming, don't you? I'm gonna give you tomorrow's news today. It's not gonna be too long until you're gonna have a direct path through Victoria College and through A&M Victoria.
Right.
It's coming.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of time. And when that happens, I think you'll see even more of our kids go on to college because they can go to VC in the summers, pick up the hours they need. They could even get an associate's degree and graduate from A&M Victoria, or they can go to A&M Victoria and 2 years later transfer to the main campus. All those types of things are going to be available. Nobody leaves here and goes to University of Houston in Houston. They just don't do it. Right. So I think there's a pathway in our community that you're in a prime spot to focus on enhancing, you know, education in Victoria.
We've started those conversations already.
That's awesome.
Our CCMR rate is low 90s right now.
And what does that mean, CCMR?
College, career, and military ready. And so there's multiple indicators that they look at to determine whether a student meets CCMR. Our CCMR rate on the industry-based certification is about a 67%. Our CCMR rate on the college side is in the 30s. And so that's an area of focus for us. So what I am doing is shedding light on those areas where we can improve. And one of them is that we have to increase the college ready side so that students are transitioning, as you say, into Victoria College, UHV, et cetera. Yeah.
You know, we've, and I don't want to, I'm making an assumption. If I'm wrong, feel free to tell me. I would assume that as a superintendent of a public school district, you're probably not too excited about the voucher program. Not too excited about it. Doesn't mean you're against it, but probably like, it could cause problems for me. Is there a way, because I had someone tell me, if you're going to use vouchers, you need to have the same test that the public school kids take. It's not fair to send a kid with state money to a private school. They get to dodge the STAR test that damns all of our kids. But at the same time, he's a private school kid. Let's let him into Harvard. I think that it would benefit our community. We could make it fun. Ashley, put this in your quiver. We could make it fun. We could turn it into, something and purse bingo, ladies. I think you should have an opportunity for the public to sit down and be administered a STAR test. And just say, okay, you're a 35-year-old college graduate, successful guy.
That's right.
Take this 8th grade STAR test.
Yep.
Just take the test.
We'd love to set that up.
Humble
awesome.
yourself and see what it looks like when you sit down and do it. Because
I bet they can't do it.
I'll tell you what, I don't want none of it.
Yep.
They're difficult.
And then when they talk about, and I don't have any fantasy, Tammy Keeling, former school board member, great friend of the program, and a great personal friend of mine. We like to razz Tammy, but she's a very sweet person. Has pointed out that when people say Texas is like number 46 out of 50 in education, based on what? Because California doesn't take the same STAR test we do.
You look at the level of rigor, and rigor and difficulty aren't the same thing. When you look at the level of rigor of our STAR test and you compare that to other state assessments, hands down, Texas is more rigorous. And so we're not comparing apples to apples. It's very different. Is
there a way? I don't know. I guess it's probably the House Committee on Education that does these things at the state level. Is there a way for us to revamp the test to, I've heard people say, well, I think now we ought to, an 85 or above ought to be an A. Well, whatever. But how do we decide if the kid knows anything?
So when you say revamp the test,
that it's, more comparable to other states, so that we're not beating our own kids up, so that we rank 46.
That's a state level decision. Clearly, they have teams of people that develop those tests, and it's supposed to be aligned to the level of rigor of our TEKS. And so it shows whether it's approaches, meets, or masters, where the student is performing at any of those levels.
There you go. Our folks will listen to a degree, and then they start having side conversations and arguments at times, right?
BJ said it gets revamped every year at the state
that's
level.
BJ Nelson.
They add new assessment items periodically, but if you think of this whole history of testing, we had tabs, then we had teams, then we had TOS, TAX, STAR, and so
we had finals. We had finals.
Yeah, so we've had
with
multiple editions of state assessments developed over time.
So we've talked about discipline. We've talked about phones. We've talked about money. We've talked about school safety. We've talked about physical education. We've talked about commitment of parents.
You didn't let me get into the voucher.
Please do. You go ahead. I didn't want to put you on the spot.
That's
honest.
Okay.
So
no.
feel free
and
to talk about
I'm not
vouchers.
Go into detail, but what I do want to say is the rhetoric right now, and we know it, is that vouchers will be a $10,000 voucher. And so when we have $10,000 for the same student that's going to go to a private school, and you have $6,000, just under $7,000 for a student that comes to Victoria ISD, mind you, and I'm talking about a general basic allotment, right? Where is the equity in that? So give us the same $10,000 that private student, the voucher would have been awarded for that private student. That's one level of it. And then you alluded to this just a little bit. What accountability comes with that? Because we are held accountable in multiple ways for every single student that serves Victoria ISD. We don't have the option to say, well, we're only going to accept you based on attendance, behavior, and grades. That's not an option.
Like a private school can.
That's right. We take every single student. So vouchers are a legislative decision at this point. It very likely is going to pass. And
but
so
you bring up a really good point. If I had 13,000 students,
that's $39 million extra dollars.
Well, she's saying 6 to 10. That's $52 million extra dollars. That fixes a lot of ACs.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, but the problem is, and immediately people that are listening are saying, well, where's that money going to come from? That's going to come from taxes. I don't know. They've got so much money in the overflow
State
right now.
budget.
They do at the state level. They do.
They're already taking it from us. They ought to give some of it back. Why do you think, and this is just a personal question,
Sure.
why do you think Texans, the most outspoken and demonstrative folks on the planet, why do we put up with that? I mean, I really mean, like, why aren't there, honestly, 10,000 people standing on the steps of the Capitol saying this is just bull?
I can't answer that.
Isn't
I
that
wish I
weird,
knew.
though? I mean, think about that. I'm just, from Benavides, they would go. How many people in Benavides, Texas?
About 2,000.
Sweet.
That's 2,000 we've already got.
That's a deal. That's a deal where you're the head of the dance team at halftime. You might play a little basketball, run a little track, and you're homecoming queen.
How'd you know that?
Oh, come on. I know people. I got people. But, well, I'll tell you what. Today has been enjoyable for me. I feel like you've been extremely forthcoming and easy to talk to. I want to invite you back anytime you want to come.
I'd love to be back.
I hope you take advantage of it. Just say, hey, I mean, literally, if you drive up and come up those stairs while we're on the air, we will make time for you.
Absolutely.
If you just say, hey, I got something I got to tell you. We just had this happen, and this kid's going to the Air Force Academy or whatever.
Yeah, tell us the good things,
We
too.
want to share in the successes.
Absolutely.
And we know that you're going to have a lot of them. So,
Victorious victories.
well, I really appreciate it. I had a deal the other day. VISD, your private school. Because can only go if you live in VISD.
There you go.
Just get people to pay
That's
the other
one
$4,000. The state gives us 10. You give us $4,000 and your kid, we'll teach them. I like it. I hope you have a great week. What's left of it.
Thank you.
Enjoy getting settled in, and we'll call you and invite you back for sure.
Thank you for having me.
So much, ma'am. Thank you very much. So and I'm going to make it so you can just exit with no problem. You can just walk straight out that door with Ashley. Thank you so much for facilitating this.
Absolutely. What
So
a great
that's
conversation.
SHEILA Collazo. 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 That's like, I can say, Equasu. Collazo. I got it. Okay. I got it now. There you go. Hey, super time and just a great visit with her.
Absolutely.
Now, but as she's going down the stairs before she gets in her car, what'd you really think?
I thought it was awesome.
I thought
It
she was
so
great.
great that we got to talk to her.
Yeah.
I've only lived in Victoria for about 3.5 years now. I never saw this level of approachability
Amen.
from the previous administrations. And so I know we'd had the interim guy on at one point, but just being in the community, she said something about she hears the community word and stuff. What I've known in Victorians is that if it's something that we can get behind, we get behind it.
Amen. Well, we're a resilient community. You hear that
We
all
are.
the time, but our community does a great job when it's really time to stand up. We've been overwhelmed at times when we've asked just this group to support something and the giving that they do at the highest level.
Absolutely.
Folks, I don't know what to tell you except we're out of time. I'm going to mention we owe some sponsors some love, and we will get it to them. But let me tell you, this hour was made possible by Palace Bingo, USA Concrete Coatings, Veracruz Restaurant, Allen's Wrecker Service, Para Vida Wellness, and the offices at 205. JP, thank you for all you do for us. We're going to get out of here today, folks, and want to thank you for everything that you do to make this as much fun for us as I hope it is enlightening to you. Have a great day, and we will talk to you mañana.
I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been